I was going to compile a list for this video. I couldn't find a pin, so I said, well, I think I can remember everything. Let me get to the A. This hat, that is the A for Arizona, the Arizona Diamondbacks. That is their symbol. This is a Diamondbacks hat. But I got it at Goodwill. I've never actually been to a game. I just got this at Goodwill for about $2. It does make a nice hat to get out in the summer. I can actually wet this, and it's actually pretty nice to get out in the heat because I can wet it. Okay, let me get to the first item on this video. It's for a job that I did this, earlier today. Now, a guy had asked me to finish installation on a mini split system. The guy had done most of the work. He asked me to finish refrigerant lines. If you don't know what a mini split system is, they've got a single piece air handler. There's no duct work on these. There's a condensing unit that sits outside, and there's a single piece evaporator. These are all solid state. When they work fine. When they cause trouble, they're a pain in the ass to diagnose problems on. That's one of the reasons I'm not sure if I care for them or not. Of course, a lot of people, they're cheap enough. A lot of people just toss them when they go bad and replace the whole thing. I think a lot of people, take that type of attitude on them. But anyway, the guy asked, well, the line sets, the copper tubing, were about 3 or 4 feet too long. So what I did is just cut them and swedge them and solder them. I went ahead and hooked them up, pressurized it with nitrogen to make sure there no leaks in there. Went ahead and pulled a vacuum, then went ahead and opened the service valves. Now, if I read the label correctly, now it's kind of hard to read, but I think it said this was an R32 unit. If this is an R32 unit, this will be the first R32 unit that I've ever worked on. Now, I know it's more popular in other parts of the world. Now, around here, most of the newer stuff is R410A. And I was looking at the suction pressure. Now, it worked. It cooled fine. There wasn't any problem that way. Like the suction pressure was back around 130, 140 psi, something like that. I'm not sure how accurate my gauge is because this is all the Amazon cheapy stuff because I don't get expensive tools anymore. But anyway, like I said, the suction pressure was up. I always thought R32 was quite a bit lower, was closer to the operating pressure that that R12 was. But I may be completely wrong on that because I've never worked with R32, and I'm going to watch some more videos here on YouTube on the pressures that the guys that have actually work with R32. I know India has got a lot of this type of the mini split systems that that use R32. Because it hasn't been that popular here in the U.S., but I think it's probably kind of gaining popularity with our in the R22, the R410 market. Well, one of the components of 410 is R32. Now, R32 is difluoromethane. Now, R410A is a 50-50 mix of pentafluoroethane and difluoromethane. Don't ask me why I remember that. I just happened to remember it. But anyway, I'm just wondering if an R32 unit works under similar pressures to 410A. What would happen if you just used the charge of 410A instead of R32? Because I've got full tank of 410. I just wondered if it's close enough that you could replace it with let's say it was low, few ounces low. And what would happen if you just charged it with 410? I'm just curious. I don't know. I'm sure somebody's probably answered those questions here on YouTube. If that is, of course, the suction pressure was higher than I would expect with 410. A 410 unit, right now would be like around maybe around 115, 120 psi, and this was running around 135, 140 psi, something like that. It's about 80. This is early this morning. About 80 degrees Fahrenheit outside. It was about 70 degrees inside this. For the indoor air temperature was. The suction pressure was higher than what I would expect. Similar pressure I expect with a 410 unit. So I'm just kind of curious. I'm gonna find out more about it because I probably encounter some 1 or 2 more R32 units. The next thing I'm going to cover. Now, I was watching a video on the Spanish language, and I knew this to some extent, but I didn't realize how big a difference there is. Now, Spanish is like, by total number of speakers, first or second language speakers. Now, yo hablo español, yo hablo poquito español. But anyway, Spanish I learned as a Spanish I speak around here. But Spanish has gone worldwide. And a lot of like English will do this to some extent. As it goes into other parts of the world, it will absorb other languages. English really hasn't done that to any real extent, but Spanish has. If you look at the Spanish is speaking in Mexico, there's a lot of Native American, like Nahuatl. There's a lot of Nahuatl words that have been absorbed into Spanish, and there's a handful of words we speak here in English. They're like chocolate, avocado. There's different. This like potato. There's a handful of words we speak here in English that have come from Spanish, that have come directly from Nahuatl. One of the native the languages that were absorbed into Spanish in Mexico, but the Spanish that they speak in other parts of Latin America, like in Argentina, like in Chile, like in the top part of South America, that are somewhat different. A lot of the words are different. That if you went back to Spain and to take some of the Spanish words that they speak in Spain, they're completely different. Now, if a lot of the core Spanish language is the same. Well, let me get to Spanish they speak in Spain. Now, the Arabs were in Spain from for about 400 or 500 years. They kicked them out back in the mid 1400s. But when the Arabs were in Spain, they left a lot of their words. There's a lot of words in Spanish that are of Arab origin. Hey, don't take my word for this. Hey, go look it up. Go watch these videos that talk about the Spanish language. That there's Spanish that they speak in the Philippines. There's Spanish that they speak in Puerto Rico. The core language is the same, but a lot of the words are slightly different. Well, like in the Philippines, there's Tagalog, and I've talked to Tagalog speakers. I've heard people speak Tagalog. I've been in line, behind, in line behind two people speaking Tagalog, and so there's supposed to be a lot of Spanish words in Tagalog, but I've heard it spoken. It sounds like a completely different language. So I don't know. It just languages have kind of fascinated me. I find them kind of interesting, the way that they have spread around the world and are slightly different. Or if you look at Arabic as it's like fourth or fifth most commonly spoken language in the world. It's on the list of the top 10. It's in the hundreds of millions of people. English is like number 2. Well, I'll get to that in a second here. But I think the top language by total number of first language speakers is Mandarin Chinese, just because there's a large population of Chinese speakers. But the most commonly spoken language on earth by first or second language speakers is English. There's a lot of people that learned English as a second language, just so they can communicate with other people. In fact, there was something I had heard, I said quite a number of years ago, it was these Asian language business leaders that held their meeting in English because it was the only language that they all had in common. This is Chinese, Japanese, Korean, but they all had their different languages. The only way they could communicate with each other was to have their language in English, just because it's their one common language. Now let me get to Esperanto, because I want to cover that. I haven't covered Esperanto in a long time, and Esperanto is pretty cool. And I tried. Let me switch hands here because my hand gets tired. Anyway, I tried to learn it a couple of times, and it would be of great benefit if there were a country where Esperanto was spoken as their native language, but there isn't. Now, there was a guy back in the mid 1800s. Trying to think of his name. You can search Esperanto here on YouTube and find. You can actually, his music composed in Esperanto is not a lot though. It just never got the popularity that the guy, or the Zamenhof. Now it's gonna take off. Now they were going to adopt it as a worldwide language. Oh, back when the guy first come up with it, and at that time the French was a very popular language, and the French were kind of upset. They said, "Well, look, if it takes off as a world language, the French language will lose some of its prestige," and they really didn't want to do that. Now, when Hitler came to power, again, it was trying to make a push to become a worldwide language, and Zamenhof is a Jewish guy, so Adolf Hitler wanted nothing to do with anything was come up by a Jewish guy, so he kind of stopped that. Now, what Zamenhof did, he took the most common, he looked at a number of the European languages, and took words that were commonly spoken in all of them. Well, the example I like to use, the word for dog in Esperanto is a hundo. Hund is hound in English, but hund is a word for dog in German. So that's what Zamenhof did. He took the commonly spoken words in 4 or 5 European languages and kind of adopted the words from those languages. And you can look at it, you can pick up. But Esperanto is Spanish. Well, Esperanza, it's a word for hope in Spanish. That's kind of the guy was kind of hoping that people would pick it up. And the guy's idea was that if we're all speaking the same language, we're not so likely to go to war with each other. Which is the kind of the fallacy with that is like the American Civil War, where both sides spoke English, but we still kind of fought a civil war. So I think I like the idea of having a common world language, but the basic premise of everybody speaking the same language and stopping wars is not really going to work. Let's see, I'm just going to cover a few more things here. For Birthday Girl, she talked about being sad and lonely, and if you want somebody to keep you warm at night, you know who you can call upon. Just tossing it out there. I think you knew that all along, and I think I don't know what's going on. I'm not inside your head. I did buy a bag of fish sticks today and pretended it was tuna fish, and you know where I'm going with that. Okay, run with it or leave it, whatever. It's up to you. Your ball game. Das Leben ist ein Abenteuer. Das Leben ist nicht einfach. Salve. Viva con Dios. Ciao and bye for now.